So thank you. I want to welcome all the listeners here to our inaugural episode of Sweet Spots. That's Ontario Sweet Spots, powered by Property Pathways. Today we have an amazing guest that we're going to be talking about site selection, small-scale real estate development, and some other initiatives that he's launching right now. So without further ado, I do want to welcome Matt Frederick to our podcast. So Matt, thank you so much for having us. How's your day been so far?
Ronald, my day's been amazing, and I'm very happy to be here today.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So I know the commute might have been a little bit challenging. We're sort of midtown here, maybe on the outskirts a little bit, but I mean, it's still a very much, you got to get to Toronto here, right? And it takes some time. But, you know, I kind of want to jump into, because you do a lot of stuff with real estate developers, and you really help train a lot of new real estate developers, but you've also done a whole lot. And I think a lot of people know a lot about what you have been doing throughout your career here as a real estate developer and investor. But I have some really cool questions that I want to run by you. So hopefully, let's see if we can get some more out of your background, because I know you're an introvert, except when you're presenting, right? So we're going to dive directly into what I'm calling the fireside questions or conversations, all right? So I have a few questions for you.
Sounds good.
Let's hopefully talk a little bit about how it is you got into what you're doing. So if you were to give advice to your younger self, what would that be and why?
Well, you know what I would say? I would say to myself, spend time with people who are at the next level. Mm-hmm. So for instance, let's say I'm in grade 10, I'm playing grade 10 basketball. Mm-hmm. And I might be good, but I should spend some time in the NBA. I'll be terrible. But the fact is, I'm spending time with people who move faster, think faster, have a higher responsibility.
That's right.
And that tends to force you to be better. And when you come back to grade 10, all of a sudden, you're better. So I always say to myself, find people in my circle who are equal, but find people who are even older, more experienced. And I always created, from the beginning, a personal board of director. In other words, not a board of director for a company, but I've always found 4 people that will keep me in check, people I can talk to.
That's right.
And ultimately run things by, people who've been through what I have done, where I want to be and doing what I want to be.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been very important for me.
Well, that's great advice for your younger self, for sure. I certainly get that. You know, you want to spend at least, you know, I think I heard somewhere that you want to spend at least 20 or 30% of your time with people that are more advanced than yourself.
I agree.
Kind of like you want to hang out with the coaches.
That's right.
And learn as much as you can. So when you get back down to a lower level, you can then be a coach, right?
Exactly.
That's great advice, man, for your younger self. So your younger self would be at an advantage.
I totally agree.
Okay, great. Okay, here's what. We got another one. Another interesting question here. So what is the most pivotal experience in your past that contributed to where you are today?
Well, I have to say that I came to Canada in 1972. And I lived in Hamilton, which is a really good city. But I was different.
Yeah.
I was different than most people because I looked different in the sense that, my skin color was different.
Yeah.
Now, we all have our own situations, right?
Yeah,
but back in the day, because I was different, I would go into a pool and the parents would say to the kids, come out of the pool. And I would watch this and I'm thinking, you think parents would be more responsible.
Yeah.
So it kind of hurt me, sort of made me feel second class.
Yeah.
And a few things of that happened to me. But you know what it did? It caused me to say to myself, you know what? I need to prove to somebody or something that I'm better than that.
That's right.
Now, it's so important that happened to me.
Yeah.
Because if it didn't, if I was very popular in the lower grades, if I was very popular in high school, I would not have had the opportunity to sit and watch people, listen, learn, and have the desire to at least have my first property by 19, because I wanted to prove to people that I was equal. And you know what I found?
That's right.
It was really only about 10% of the people out there who gave me a hard time in that area.
That's right.
But as a kid, I saw it as 80%. The truth is, a lot of people who don't even look like me helped me and were my best support.
Wow.
But the fact is, I didn't see that until later on.
Wow.
But it was very important to drive me to be better than what I was. So it was a blessing in disguise. And again, we all have a different situation. You know, person, you might be the best looking young gentleman in class, but he goes home and his dad is an alcoholic and beats him.
Yeah.
So everybody has something.
Wow.
You know? So it's important to understand that too.
Well, I got to tell you, that's great. And I think a lot of immigrants to this country can have similar experiences, you know, but I oftentimes think a lot of that might be an exaggeration just because we are coming from a different background. But with that said, you know, sometimes we also we put so much attention on this little 10%, as you're calling it, and make it a mountain.
Exactly.
Whereas it really shouldn't have been.
It shouldn't have been.
That's right, yeah.
But you know what?
It contributed.
It did contribute to my success, but it shouldn't have been a mountain because it was not a mountain.
That's right. Okay, good. You know, hey, I don't think I've ever heard that, but that's actually really, phenomenal advice. And again, I like to learn a little bit more about who you are as a person because, you know, we have had some conversations, over the phone, but man, this is great stuff. Yeah. So one more question in our fireside chat here. And, you know, what aspect of your life impacted your decision to do what you do today as a real estate developer, right?
Well, you know, I bought my first house at 19. I wanted that property because I just wanted to prove again that I was not second, I was first.
Yeah.
But I didn't plan to be an investor. I just wanted to have a house.
Yeah.
I actually rented the basement, shared the kitchen. I lived in the main floor. So today you'll call that house hacking.
Yeah.
But my brother, about 4 years later, he's a police officer. He came to me and said to me, I want you to invest in real estate. And I says, I'm not doing that because I'm a teacher. That's what I do. I teach.
Yeah.
And he says, no, I'm your older brother. I have a gun. You're going to invest. And because I was a systems guy, he wanted me to bring my systems to the table because he was more of a visionary. I was more of a systems guy. So he literally pulled me into investing. I didn't want to be an investor. He pulled me into it.
Good.
And it was important because then I began to see the world differently. And so it was my older brother who made the choice for me.
Oh, wow. You know? That's fantastic. Yeah. So he essentially created an environment that you now can basically blossom in.
Exactly.
And clearly, I know he's probably his older brother, you said.
Older brother, that's right.
Yeah. And right now, where is he right now?
So you know what? He's semi-retired. He lives in Belize.
Okay,
and we actually build in Belize. So about 6 years ago, he retired, went down there. And again, we build speculation houses or we build houses for people who want like a luxury house.
Yeah, well,
as well.
I know Belize has a real market for that, right?
It does.
Small country, but beautiful beaches.
Beautiful beaches.
Yeah.
But what I like about it, it's British common law when it comes to ownership of the property.
Yeah.
And everything is in English, and I read English. It's important for me to understand my contracts.
Well, hey, great. I mean, that's our fireside. That's going to be the end of our fireside segment here. But I mean, that's really segues into what is we're going to be talking about here, which is small scale real estate development.
Yes.
How do you select a site? Like, what are some of the factors that you would take into account when you're looking at a site? So, I mean, I'm really at the beginning. I'm at the beginning of this whole journey.
Right.
What are some of the things that I should be looking for in a site if I'm planning a small scale real estate development?
So what I do, just before I find the site, I talk to the city to see what they need. So I might talk to a counselor, let's say a Ward 1 or Ward 2 counselor. I want to find out what the city is looking for. Are they looking for density? Are they looking for, low cost? Like, what are they actually looking for? What does the city need?
That's interesting.
And when I understand what they need, understand what capacity they need it in, then that's going to help me to determine what am I going to do there. Am I going to do a subdivision of townhouses? Am I going to do semi-detached? Am I going to do, 3, 4 story, 50 unit condo buildings? It all depends on what they need. Now, when I know what they need, then I know what to look for because I understand the size and capacity. Then I start looking. And I generally just go to Google Earth to start off with.
Yeah, of course.
And I just look for pieces of land. Yeah. And then what I do, when I find that land, obviously I speak to the owner. But if I'm looking at the piece of land, there are considerations that I may have to do. Like, for instance, if it's a piece of farmland, I'm looking to see right next to it, does the farm next to it, are there pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, algicides, even antibiotics in the farm animals? Is there some kind of a stream or a river coming from that property to my property? That's
very smart. That's very smart.
Is there a railway going by my land? Because now I have to deal with the rail. And there's setbacks for rail. Okay. And there's also pollution on the rail lines. I might be close to a factory. If that's the case, then I have my environmental concerns with that factory. If there's a small river running through it, Well, I don't know if I have to do something called a record of sight condition because I don't know if it affects salamanders or birds or,
Wow.
so that's an environmental issue.
Oh my goodness.
And
Yes.
then I have
Yes.
to deal with, are there some trees there that are endangered trees?
Mhm.
Can I cut those down?
Yeah.
How close is the power to that piece of land? Do I have to bring in
Infrastructure.
gas
Mhm.
and electrical and water
Servicing.
and
Wow.
servicing?
Yeah,
That's a lot of
yeah.
money.
Okay.
And again, so those are a few of the things that I'm thinking. I might be beside a highway because you have to make sure you're so many feet away from that,
Mhm.
and then there's a different ministry you're dealing with.
Wow.
So that's what I generally look at when I look at a piece of land.
I got to tell you, I mean,
No.
that's a lot that you just broke down. Like, that's a snapshot. That's a huge, that's a bird's eye view
Yeah.
of everything that you need to basically consider when you're selecting a site.
Yes.
I want to kind of drill in a little bit on
Sure.
some of those topics there. So
Sure.
you did mention about sort of working with the city.
Mhm.
How important is that on a scale of 1 to 10 and why? Working with the city, the I would say the high level officials to make sure that things work. How important is that and why?
Well, from 1 to 10, I think it's 10.
Yeah.
And a lot of people,
Yeah.
when they begin to develop,
Mhm.
their ego is not super high.
Yeah.
But once they start building, the ego grows a bit.
Yeah.
And it's not about what they need, it's about what I need.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you how things should go. I'm
Mhm.
going to tell you how you should do your job.
Okay.
And they use a lot of their knowledge too. The problem with your knowledge is sometimes the people in the city they may feel intimidated
Yeah.
by that knowledge.
Mhm.
It may cause them to not act as fast.
Mm.
At the same time, I need to understand how things work, like which departments are slower and which departments are faster.
Okay.
And therefore, I can compensate by just making sure, because I create that relationship,
Yeah.
I'm able to talk to each person.
Mhm.
I'm able to just have a friendly reminder
Mm.
that did that information go from point A to point B?
Mhm.
Because 70% of most delays,
Yeah.
if you do your work right,
Yes.
if you didn't give any blanks, 70% of most delays come from department to department not sending information back and forth, not in a timely way,
Mhm.
not understanding exactly what
Yeah.
Department A or Department B wants. So we have to
Absolutely.
facilitate that, I believe.
Wow.
So it's really important to understand that.
Well, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
You know, having worked with a number of clients on design work,
Yeah.
doing some small scale type of developments, I understand how the city works. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
Some departments do work slower than others. And for example, like, I will touch a little bit on this, but
Yeah.
definitely you want to make sure that all your zoning requirements are kind of knocked off and everyone is already in agreement with what it is you're
Exactly.
actually trying to do, or else that can create a lot of backlog and just hold up people kind of thinking what's going on here. So I like that approach,
Yeah.
and I think maybe I can take a couple tools out of your toolbox there and just make sure that I'm reaching out to the city in advance to make sure, because even though as you said,
Yeah.
sometimes people can be a little bit reluctant,
Yeah.
to treat you that way,
Yeah.
and they may be a little bit offended in some cases, right?
Yeah.
For lack of a better word. But
Yeah, and also too,
Mhm.
a lot of people go number 1, number 2, number 3
Yeah.
in sequence.
yeah,
Sometimes the correct sequence is not the
Mm.
right sequence.
Mm.
And like I said, I go to
That's
the
right.
counselor to see what's in the area.
yeah,
I go to, let's say, the Conservation Authority.
yes,
I
yes.
talk to them first to
Mhm.
get a good understanding of what they need.
Yeah.
So when they actually get my paperwork on their table,
Mhm.
it's not cold.
That's right.
They've seen it before.
Oh, got you.
And I
got you.
respected them.
Mhm.
And although the Conservation Authority serves at the pleasure of the city,
Mhm.
sometimes it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
ultimately, it's knowing who to talk to first, second, or third, not always in the right sequence.
yeah.
And a lot of it is, guess what? Life imitates high school.
And I couldn't have said it better. And I actually agree with you.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the first phase,
Yeah.
right, of going through this process. And you kind of give us a bird's eye view
Yeah.
of all the different aspects of it. And you did just mention about conservation.
Yeah.
My experience with conservation is that you don't want to mess with these guys.
No.
They're worse than the mafia, right?
Right.
Like they will shut things down and put
That's
you
right.
out of business,
Exactly.
right? So you want to make sure that you're selecting sites like that comply or are
Yeah.
not within any type of environmentally sensitive area.
That's right.
So what are some of the tools and how do you go about doing that? Like from a selection standpoint?
Well, it's very important to do two things. Number one,
Mhm.
I try to circle myself with people who are in the industry.
Yeah.
So, and this sounds maybe not genuine,
Mhm.
but I do make it genuine.
Mhm.
I try to find people who are environmentalists.
Yeah.
Or I find people who are BCINs
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
architects. I find people who are in different
Specialized
specialized areas
Mhm,
of
mhm.
the business
Yeah.
that I want to be in.
Okay.
I become friends with them.
Building the right team.
But I become friends with them not to do business with them. to have a prototype to understand them.
Yeah.
Now, everybody's unique, but if I have a good friend who is working for, let's say, Peter McCallum,
Yeah.
Environmental,
Got you.
and I'm not actually doing business with them, let's say,
Yeah,
but
okay.
my friend is someone I can talk to,
Mm-hmm.
have lunch with, get to understand and know, play racquetball with, get to know that person.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting to know the culture and the understanding of how somebody in the environmental world thinks.
Okay.
So that person is my prototype.
Okay.
And then I may do business with them, but I'll do business with other people,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that I understand how they think.
Got you.
I have people who work in the city who are bylaw officers.
Yeah.
I actually know them.
Yeah.
And we're friends with them. It
Yes.
may not even be the city that I'm doing business in,
That's correct.
but you have to have people as friends that you spend time with
Wow.
to understand.
Wow.
It's funny. A lot of police officers are great people. My brother was a police officer.
Yeah.
A lot of police officers spend a lot of time with police officers.
That's
They
right.
don't get a chance to spend time with everybody else.
Community. Yeah.
Well, guess what?
That
It's
they
the
police
same thing with
Got you.
this.
Got you.
So it may be I know everybody in one city,
Mm-hmm.
and I may not be doing business in that city, but at least I have prototypes of each person. So when somebody's talking to me, I understand what they're saying because my
Yes.
friend has helped me to be aware of the concerns of an environmentalist. It's a very long answer, but
Wow.
hopefully that makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? I absolutely, this is the thing that I try to tell all my clients,
Yeah.
and I try to even share with other real estate investors.
Yeah.
You got to know the glossaries,
That's right.
right? The glossary is important because someone listen, I couldn't, if I were to go into a doctor's office,
Right.
they do surgery, I wouldn't know all the tools, all
Right.
the words that they're using. I wouldn't know what they're operating on.
Exactly.
Right? Of course, maybe if they're opening me, I might be asleep, right? But with that said, what I would say is this is really important to understand the glossary of terms that the professionals are using around you. So at least you don't have to be the expert at it, but you at least need to follow the conversation.
That's right.
And I like the second point you make there about just really this real estate development business is a business of relationships, right?
Yes.
Basically knowing all the people and all the parts and knowing who to talk to when certain things come up. So very important.
I agree. And then understanding somebody's fears, anxieties, doubts, how they see the world.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking to anybody in that field, I get it.
Yeah.
And they know I get it.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, I get to the front of the line without having to try to get there.
Yes.
Because I know people just like them. And that's called respect.
That's correct.
And it also means my ego is not big enough to think it's not about you, it's about me.
That's correct.
I've taken time to learn you,
Yes,
walk in your shoes.
That's correct.
And now I respect you that way.
Sometimes we forget that building officials are also people.
They're people too.
They're also people, right?
Yeah.
So, that's great. And what I'll do is I want to kind of fast forward here because we can talk all day about these sort of building officials and this whole process, these sort of political process about it, the regulatory process, which is the zoning and working with the different, bodies, having authorities and so forth. But I want to kind of drill in a little more to the actual investor. So the real estate investor. So I'm planning a small scale development. And this is kind of setting up for some future questions as well. But I'm planning to get into small scale development, maybe row houses, raw land, maybe brownfields and so forth. Yeah. So what are some of the skills that you think is critical for a new real estate investor success in this business? What would you say?
Well, I mean, raising money is number one.
Yeah.
Because if I can raise money for projects, but I don't know how to do a project, I can still be successful.
Yeah.
Secondly, if I can raise money, but I can do site selection, knowing the right kind of site, and understanding what can go there, then I can still be successful. Successful meaning I can take care of my family.
Yes.
Okay. Number three would be if I can actually do the site plan approval process. Because a lot of builders can't do that, right? They don't know how to do it. They don't have the patience for it. They don't have the finesse. They use a broad sword as opposed to a rapier when you're dealing with some of these finance things. And things that are a little bit, let's say, things that you need to be careful about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Sensitive. Surgical.
Surgical. There's the word. There's the word.
Yeah.
So ultimately, that's the important part, right?
Yes.
But when it comes to financing and raising money, you have to understand people, and you have to make a choice. Do I want to raise money from people who are putting $50,000 on the table, or people who are putting down $500,000 or $1 million? You definitely want to work with people who are putting down the $1 million on the table. That means you have less mouths to feed, less people to answer to, and then from there, you have to ask yourself, are they going to stay for the whole game, or are they just going to help me buy the land, get to site plan approval shovel ready.
Wow.
Because keep in mind that when I buy the land, if I want to go to the bank, I'm at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
I need them. If I get site plan approved, now I know what I can build. I can tell the bank exactly when it'll be built.
That's right.
Then I can tell investors exactly when it can be built. Now I'm at the top of the hill. So I like to get to the position of strength. And then the people who help me come in to do that, I may then refinance the property at its higher value now, and then get them out.
Get them out, yeah.
And then now bring in the bank or bring in investors who need to see that. I can see that you get that done in a year or two.
Yeah.
Because we're shovel ready.
That's right. That's right.
You know, so it's understanding of that mix.
So raising money, number one.
Raising money is number one.
Number two is understanding just the zoning process.
Understanding the zoning process, having a good friend who's a BCIN, you know,
yes, that's
like you. So I can just call and say, you know what do you think about this site? Right? And of course I have to respect you.
Yeah, of course.
I can't just keep calling you. And, you know, I have to respect your time, right?
That's right. That's right.
It's important to respect people. And then I get a good scope because you're excellent at looking at what's possible.
Yeah.
And then I have to make a decision that, you know what, although I like it and it fell on my lap, doesn't mean I have to do it.
That's right. That's right.
I can walk away from it.
Okay.
Right.
And number three would be just going through the regulatory process of getting site plan approval and so forth. As you say, what's it, a rapier you said?
A rapier.
A rapier is like one of those like fencing type of sword?
It's fencing.
Okay, cool.
Thin sword. You place it.
I should have one of those at my office right now, you know, because I think constantly I'm using this tool because, you know, really and truly it's very surgical. Just like it's very, very specific, very surgical. So I think all this is really great for a new real estate investor to understand because, you know, this is a long game as well.
It's a long game.
It's a long game. Development is not a renovation.
No, it's not a renovation.
You're easily setting aside at least 2 years of your life. Right, and probably a ton of money just to kind of make this whole thing work, right? So I absolutely agree with that. Now, what advice would you give someone starting out in real estate development in terms of risk tolerance, maybe timelines? Like, what type of advice would you give them concerning that? And maybe I'll even ask a second phase to that is like, do you think everyone is actually cut out for small scale real estate development?
Yeah. Well, I'll answer that first. The answer is no. Some people should run. Run, right?
Okay.
But what I did, my brother and I actually bought a few townhouses that were being built by a builder, and we were able to have the ability to come on site.
Yeah.
So we actually watched them build it at each of the key phases. And those key phases would be inspection phases.
Yeah.
So, you know, all of a sudden the pre-foundation, the pre-footing, the post-footing,
that's right,
foundation, you know, rough in. So at all the key inspections, we showed up and we were able to look and see it. So we watched it for a while. Then we actually had our own houses built. You don't have to do this, but that's what we did.
Yeah.
And then we actually had some chance to make modifications to existing plans. And therefore we watched those being built. And we felt pretty good about that. Then we moved to a whole different realm. So look at what I did. I couldn't find anybody here in Ontario to teach me the ropes because families keep things tight.
That's right.
Secrets.
That's correct. In construction,
I did find a company in Alberta. I was pulling title in all their projects at Land Title Land Registry.
Okay, got you.
And I found out that this company...
This is this investigative work that you took upon yourself.
Investigating, yeah, because I couldn't find anybody here to help me with this.
Wow, that's impressive.
But I was going across the country just looking, right? I just happened to be dating somebody in Alberta.
Yeah.
So when I went to see her, I was able to check out real estate, right?
Yeah.
I went to see her, not the real estate.
Yeah. Okay. Got you.
Bonus,
so make sure you got to choose, right?
Yeah. You got to choose, right? Bonus, right? And I found this one company. A few doctors kept supporting this firm.
Yeah.
And I called them and said to them, "Listen, I was back in Ontario. I said, listen, I can come out there and show you guys how to raise money, not just from that little small group. I can show you how to raise money from other people because you're buying one piece of land." They're funding you. You're getting it to shovel ready. You're refinancing it. You're paying them out, and you're buying your second piece of land.
Yeah.
Why don't I help you raise money to get a few pieces under control so that you can actually do more than one thing? And they said to me, "Don't come out. We're not interested." And that was a Thursday. And by the Tuesday, I jumped on a plane. I was living in Ancaster, went to WestJet, jumped on a plane back in 2007. I flew out there and said, "I just flew 3.5 hours to come and see you. And I will have an hour of your time."
Wow.
And they're like, "You just flew 3.5 hours?"
Wow.
I go, I just flew 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So they gave me an hour, which became 5 hours.
That's
and ultimately, I said to them, "I need for you to show me your structure. I want to live your culture.
Yeah.
I'm going to come out here 15 days a month, and you'll pay me for that. And once I learn what you guys do, then I'll begin to raise money for you. So that's how I began to learn the business.
Wow.
By giving them what they needed, and they gave me what I needed.
Well,
so that was really important.
I got a few interesting comments to make on that. I actually think Jim Rohn said that. Give enough people what they want, and you will get what you want.
Yes,
right.
exactly.
Like, so that's the one. But I think I heard a similar story like that. I read it actually in Think and Grow Rich, like this book, Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
So it was like this. I can't. This is not verbatim, right?
Yeah.
But very similar. Like there's this guy who saw Thomas Edison.
Yeah.
He actually made this device, this teleprompter or something like that. Yeah. And this guy thought like he would drive out to wherever Thomas Edison was on the whim, right? And just go tell him like he's gonna go into business with Thomas Edison to sell this device.
Yes.
Entrepreneur, right? And that's essentially what you exhibited there, right?
If you look at the car industry, the airplane industry, all these industries always has somebody who understands that fortune favors the bold.
Oh, wow.
And
that's amazing.
And therefore they go out there and they're bold about it. And things happen.
Well,
now, there is failure. You hit a wall sometimes.
We can talk about that. That's a whole episode in itself.
But I don't want to get to 96 thinking I should have.
Yeah, and that's right. Regret is more painful than the pain you would go through in doing the thing, than the fear to face, right?
Exactly.
But you said something, and I think like this is the most critical part. I think to any real estate investor, raising money, as you mentioned, is the first thing. Yeah. So, like, how did you learn to raise money? Like, it seems like this was a skill that you developed. I'm very curious. How did you learn to raise money in the efficiency that you do today?
Well, that's a good question. What I did was I decided to choose a certain type of person. Like choose a character, a caricature. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
So I said to myself, I'm going to find somebody who is maybe female, who is 45 years old. Her young adult just moved back home. Maybe her mom or dad has early onset dementia.
Yeah.
She is maybe experiencing a divorce. She's upper management. If she were to leave her position, probably not get a position again. She is tired. And she wants to know that there's something there for her in the future. But she's busy doing her high-level job.
Yeah.
So what I can do is say to her, listen, I want to make you realize that what we're doing is secure to a certain degree. Here are all the problems that can happen.
Yeah.
And we're not going to go grandiose. But if you can put your money here, and we can have success in 3 years, not 5 years, but 3 years, because that's the horizon. Yeah. Then we can do it again for the next 3 years, again for the next 3 years. So, once you reach 55 or 65, we have done this about 4 or 5 times. We can build up a nice nest egg for you.
Okay, got you.
And enough for you to then write the next chapter of your life. Because a lot of females, when they hit about 60 and 70 and 80, they want to write a new chapter every year.
Every year.
Sometimes guys stop writing chapters at 55, right?
They're retired at 50.
So that's one example. Or I might focus on a plastic surgeon. They have certain needs and thoughts. I may focus on a pilot. They have certain needs and thoughts. And I have to ask myself, what kind of investments do they want?
Wow.
How do I find them? Where do they go? And then meet them. So I go specific to tasks, specific to people. Yeah. Not just a general, I'm raising money.
Yeah.
I focus on specific people.
Wow. Well, I know one sales expert by the name of Jas Karen. I think he would probably attest to that as well.
Same thing, right?
Yeah, very similar. Like just kind of like really laying out like what this avatars looks like. Like who is this person that you're targeting? Right? Because not everybody is buying your product, right?
Exactly.
Like if you're selling ice, maybe the guy that lives in the desert wants your ice, but the Eskimo that lives up north, he's not your client.
No.
Right?
That Eskimo wants sand.
He wants sand, right? Yeah. So really kind of, so what you're saying is pick an area, pick a group.
Understand them, what they want, what's their need.
Yeah.
What am I truly trying to do? I'm truly trying to help that person in their life.
Yeah.
And I'm going to help myself as well.
Yeah.
So it's a give and take.
You are actually one of the professionals in this real estate investing business, and I call it a business because a lot of time people think like real estate investors, they don't have skills, they don't have money, they just kind of come like door salesmen knocking on people's doors and asking for all these things, right?
That's right.
But you have to have real skills in order to run this business. I know that as a fact because I spent like quite a bit of years in school studying a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
You took a completely different path. It's like
Right.
you just went in directly into the field and
Right.
developed hands-on.
Yeah.
And then there's yet still another way, right?
Mhm.
Like trade guys sometimes come from trades and then they then develop the skill as well, right? So I mean, there's way different paths to come in. So I do know that you are actually running some interesting training programs. I actually joined you in one of your programs. I was blown away because first of all, I was like, well, I heard you speak on different mediums. I was like, wow, this guy knows his stuff. But when I got there and I saw a 100-page document, and then I was like, well, this guy gotta be some sort of expert in like this realm.
Yeah.
Right. And then of course now you're doing this was called, what was the name of that program?
Well, that was how to build. So
That's
how to build a house.
Yeah. Okay.
From A to Z.
Right. And so, I mean, how to build a house from A to Z. If you guys haven't actually checked this guy, what's your Instagram by chance?
Oh, it's actually rccsol.investor. rccsol.investor.
Okay. So check him out there. You'll probably see links to his how to build a house. It kind of gives you everything you need to how to build a house. Again, talking about small scale development. Now, there's another program which I am more interested in because I want to pick your brain. I want to get that booklet. Like I want to get that booklet on how to raise money, how to navigate the more business side, because I know the building side. I think we talked about that, but the business side, how to get money, how to structure deals and stuff. Like that's really critical. So
it's important how to structure deals, and it's important to. We've talked before about this. When somebody comes to me and says to me they want me to invest, and they'll give me numbers like, here's your ROI, here's the cash flow, here's A, B, C, and D. You know what? If I'm on the 10th floor because I'm doing very well, I have money to invest. I never tell anybody if I'm doing well or not. It's my personal business.
That's right.
But if I'm on the 10th floor, I don't want to fall 10 floors. So don't tell me about how much money I can make. Show me how you're going to protect me liability-wise.
Wow.
I do not want to be sued for this project. Show me the tax treatment that this product's going to have. Because, yes, I'm going to make a lot of money, but if I lose most of it to taxes, it doesn't make sense. Show me the systems you put in place so that things are working even when you're not. Show me my exits. Now you've earned the right to now talk to me about what money I can make.
Wow.
So again, it's just a different way of thinking or a different approach. But if you understand that wealthy people do not want to be poor, they are more afraid of being poor.
That's right.
Really.
That's right. They don't care. They don't care really how much the ROI is. They don't care about that. They want to know how much of that they will keep.
Or if I want to get into this, why would I harm myself to do something? Because in my past, I've actually invested with people. I gave them the lead, and I ended up losing and having to carry the bag at the end.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, I did this to help them.
Yeah.
I didn't have to do this.
Yeah.
And it hurt me.
That's right.
So it's important to have a reason why I want to invest.
That's right.
And you have to convince me.
Hey, I took a look at the performer as well. The performer is also part of that program, and it's robust.
Yeah.
It really does answer a lot of questions. As me as a building designer, construction professional, I saw everything in there that I would actually need to know: hard costs, soft costs, assumptions, and on all that other stuff. Yeah. It really does break it down, and I think it's really important that I believe that having an understanding of how to read statements and how to manipulate a performer is like a key component in structuring deals, right?
I totally agree.
Yeah,
totally agree.
And that is something that I can see a lot of people lacking. But this is something that you offer as part of that second training, or is that?
It is. It's more of a multifamily building.
Yeah.
How to finance and structure, how to raise money. But I will say this though, in the first How to Build workshop, you were an attendant, right? I got to tell you that what you brought to the table, your understanding of the bylaws, because a few times I invited Ronald up to speak because he knows what he's talking about. And I got to tell you, your input really made that training even better.
Yeah.
That's just to tell you that you and I will do some trainings together.
Yeah, no,
in the future, because your input is, I think, amazing.
Yeah. Well, I truly appreciate that coming from you. I mean, I work hard at my craft.
Yeah.
Just like anyone that is passionate about what they do.
Yeah.
So, I certainly appreciate that feedback for sure. So, I mean, maybe here's what we'll do. We'll actually go into like maybe a really fun segment here.
Sounds good.
I want to call this segment, this is our inaugural episode. So this is the first time. This is our inaugural honored guest Matt
That's me.
Fredericks. And you know what? I want to do this 3 times questions, right? So
Sounds good.
So let's see if we can give
Okay.
this a go here. Let's see how this goes.
I'm ready.
So you're ready. Okay,
Breathe.
right. So
Ready.
breathe this one. Okay, so what advice is worth giving an investor, a real estate investor, 3 times or more? What advice would you give a real estate investor 3 times or more? The most important advice, 3 times or more. Let's hear this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people think big problems require big solutions.
Yeah.
See, big problems don't start from big problems.
Yeah.
Big problems start from small things,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, the tap starts dripping, and then it leads to something else.
Mm.
No matter what it is,
Wow.
big problems start from small things. The space shuttle exploded because of something small. People think you have to find a big solution for a big thing because they think it must be a big solution, or else I would not be stumped.
Yeah.
No way I could be stumped with a small solution.
That's right.
But you have to look for small solutions
Mm-hmm.
that will lead to solving big problems. So that's what I keep telling myself. Don't look for the big, look for the small. Now, when I'm building, I deal with the small.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to you about this, that I think that I'm water, I think that I'm air. So if I'm air and water and I'm looking at a building site, how does air and water affect the soil?
Yeah.
How does air and water affect the concrete in my foundation?
Envelope.
How does the air and water affect my lumber? How does it affect my insulation? How does it affect my roof?
That's right.
So air and water is a little thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
But it's a massive thing to making that house work or not.
Wow.
Just to say to you, you need to understand the little things, how they work,
Yeah.
to help you understand the big things. And I have to keep telling myself that over and over again,
Yes.
3 times.
Wow. Okay, good.
a year.
And that's really great advice because sometimes we are somewhat bombarded by big flames and we're trying to out big flames. But big flames start small.
Big flames start small.
So if it'll take less effort to out those flames if you address it when they're small. So
That's right.
That's actually really, really great advice. And that's advice that you would give an investor 3 times. You'll keep
3
repeating
times.
that to them
That's
because
right.
they need to focus on the small details
Yes.
here, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
awesome.
agree.
Awesome. Well, great. So this one is a little bit different here. So let's see. So 3 times. These are 3 time
3 times.
questions,
3
right?
times
3
questions.
times. What would you do, right? Okay, so let me know so choose a letter in the alphabet.
Letter of the alphabet. Okay.
Choose a letter. Which letter it is?
Let's go with C.
C? Okay. Choose a letter in the alphabet and give me 3 words that start with that letter that describes you.
Okay. Can I change my letter? No.
Okay.
I'm joking. Okay. So C.
Yeah.
So I'll say character. Number 1 is character.
Okay, got
Have to have character.
Mm.
And you always have to test your character. It's not a thing you have.
Mm-hmm.
At every level of my wealth or every level of my increase, I have to increase my character to survive that level.
Mm-hmm.
The second is courage. I had to be courageous to do bold things that people said to me, you know what, you can't succeed at that.
Mm-hmm.
And number 3, C would be cunning. I had to be cunning in whatever I did in order to be able to make sure I get the right property, the right price. Obviously, I'm doing no harm when I say cunning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not there to harm people,
Yes.
but I have to be cunning in what I do. I have to be nimble and cunning.
Wow.
So I think those 3 would probably be my 3.
Well, these I definitely stand by character.
Yeah.
And character is definitely something that, this has to do a lot with integrity as well.
Integrity is important.
Right.
Yeah.
Really sticking to your word and so
Yeah.
forth. Courage.
Courage.
Courage, I think every entrepreneur,
Yeah.
I'll say this, I respect every single business person that started a business and remains in business for greater than 3 years.
Yeah.
Maybe, there's all these statistics that if the businesses last more than 5 years, that it is, it's not really considered to be established. But the truth is, 3 years, to me, the person is established
Yeah.
in terms of courage, being understanding how to go through some stuff and just stick to itness, right?
Right.
So having that courage, I think, is important because following courage comes capability.
Capability.
Right?
Yes,
And
true.
like once you get through that whole fear of doing something, then that capability comes and then you can repeat that, right?
I will say one thing going back to character.
Yeah.
If you fail at character, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person and the world is over.
Wow,
Right?
yeah.
I failed in character in certain areas of my life. And I caught it.
Yes.
I forgave myself for it. But I caught it.
Wow.
I made sure I said, okay, you know what? How do I make it even? How do I forgive myself for it? How do I get forgiven? How do I go to the back of the line? How do I work my way up again? Because some people, they make a character mistake and then they hold it against themselves forever. And we're not perfect.
Yeah.
And characters are a thing that you have to develop.
Wow.
So again, I've messed up in my life. I'm not perfect.
Wow.
But you have to forgive yourself and make things even and then move on. Right?
Wow. I gotta tell you, man, you touched my heart with that one, you know,
wow.
because we're all in a like when you're doing business, or even when you're just going through life, like you will falter in character in some areas, but you won't meet everybody's definition of character.
That's right.
Right. So but you can't beat yourself up.
No,
you have to be able to forgive yourself first.
That's right.
And then you can, because really it's kind of like. That's like drinking poison, right?
Right.
It is like drinking poison
in your body,
for your own body, right? So being able to forgive yourself, absolutely agree with that. And cunning, wow, that's interesting.
Gotta be cunning.
Kind of like a fox, like I never heard that term to describe somebody. I don't know if a fox cunning. I don't know what describes a fox.
It is actually a fox. Listen, a fox is cunning, and a lion has courage. So you have to be both.
That's it.
And a tiger has character.
That's
so
great.
ultimately, you have to be all three.
Oh, man,
so tiger is sovereign. A lion is character, works within its group, and a fox works alone, but has to be ingenious.
That's actually that's a good point. A fox does work. So it's funny you brought this up because I actually love geographics, right?
Yeah.
Like so there's like lions and like so I'm a big fan of the domains. Let's call it that, right?
Yeah.
The air, the sea. I even add the river in there, right? I add the land. Because they say like the lion is the king of the jungle. Well, that's not the lion. That's the ape. The ape might be the king of the jungle. Maybe I think an ape. The lion is really the king of the savannah.
That's right.
Right? Like really, that's where the lion's domain.
Right.
Okay, different topic, but I love that stuff. I actually compare myself a lot with animals, like look at a river, you look at an alligator.
Yeah.
That's the king of the river,
Yeah,
right? The swamplands, right?
It's true.
So, okay, let's get back to our 4 C's here. We digress here, right? Okay, so this one is kind of interesting. I really want to know this myself because I also have my list. But what movie or book do you watch more than 3 times or 3 times questions? So which movie or books do you watch more than 3 times a year or since it actually was released?
If I think back to movies, there was a movie called Troy with Brad Pitt.
Oh, yes.
And it starts off and it talks about men. Over time, we want to know that we were remembered. So men meaning women as well, right?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
And we ask ourselves, will they know how we loved, how we fought, what we did? It's important to leave a legacy. So I like that aspect of Troy because of the legacy.
Yeah, yeah.
I liked the movie with Gladiator. I like Gladiator.
You're my kind of guy, my friend.
I'll tell you why I like Gladiator. At one
Maximus.
At one point, I guess the person in charge of the gladiators is saying to Maximus, listen, I wasn't famous because I killed fast. I was famous because I won the crowd. Win the crowd, you'll win your freedom. So sometimes people do things, because they want to just show how great they are. It's not about how great you are. You got to win the crowd. You win the crowd, entertain the crowd, you entertain your freedom.
Wow.
So that's important.
Wow.
And I liked last one, City of Angels, with Meg Ryan and I forget the person who was the angel. But at some point, he was on top of the building and he had to make a choice. Do I stop being an angel? Do I fall off this building and become a human again? And he said that in becoming a human, you feel pain. But if you feel pain, you also feel love. So if he was an angel, and it's a movie, of course, but if he's an angel, he never would have felt the taste of food, the pain and the love. We require it. So I'm okay with pain.
Wow.
Because it juxtapositions love.
Love, okay, got you.
If you don't feel pain, you won't feel love. So I would say those 3 movies are probably it for me.
Wow, those are deep, my friend. Like you actually, you watch those shows. Like
I've watched them a few
I'll
times.
tell you, like so I actually like that genre of movies. Those anything that has swords, shields, axes, or bows. Catapults. Like you get me in on those movies. I love it. Like my favorite of all time would be Sparta. Right?
I love that movie.
So Spartans, what do you do? Oh my gosh, love it.
Right.
I just love the role of the army, So really, really awesome.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, I'm definitely big on that. So that kind of brings us to the end of our three-point questions. Now, I'll just ask you: is there anything else that we missed here that you might want to add, like in terms of what would be some final points that you might want to just leave a listener here on small scale development?
I would say that a lot of people want to improve themselves, so they end up reading lots of books, right? And they might read 40 books in a year. But I would say to them, read one book in January, take 5 things from it, spend February incorporating that in your life, and make March it be your behavior. So I'd rather take 4 points from a book, it become a behavior by March, and then I read a second book, do the same thing, third and fourth. So I'd rather read 4 books a year, pick up 20 behaviors that I learned from the books. You'll be more successful living the point as opposed to reading 1,000 books and being just book smart.
Yeah.
Right. So I think people should apply what they learn.
That's right.
If you're listening to us today, and there's something that Ronald or myself said, you need to take that and apply it in your life.
Absolutely.
And that's where this becomes very powerful.
Absolutely. I do agree with that. Taking action.
Taking action.
Action. Like they say, knowledge is knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is really not power. Like it's the application of knowledge.
Application
is power,
of knowledge is,
right? So really what you're saying is essentially read the book.
Yes.
Take the advice from the book.
Yes.
And apply it.
Right.
To get some result.
Exactly.
Then read another book.
Right. So even if you get...
Don't read 40 books at one time.
5 results that you live are better than 1,000 results that you know.
Okay, great. Right. Well, so I want to leave you guys with a quote. I think it's a really interesting quote for real estate developers, but overall just people in general, right? And do you have $20 or $5, $10, any sum of money?
I might have my lunch money. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, here.
This is not enough for the lunch for 2. Okay, so
it's for parking.
Okay, good. So this is a Canadian $10 bill. You're from the Caribbean, so the Caribbean we actually tear money, and you'll see some money with actual tape holding it together, and that money is that money valuable still or not?
It's still valuable.
It's still a $10 bill, even if it's split in half and it's held together with tape.
It's completely valuable.
Absolutely. So I want to leave you guys with this quote here, and it says like, dirty or clean, crusty or ill-looking, you're still worth much to those that love you. You're still worth much to those that love you. And I want to kind of give a little example here, like this, for this $10 bill here, right? If you take this $10 bill and fold it, is the value now split in half?
Nope.
No, it's still $10. If you give it even a further fold and you crumple it up, sorry, I'm gonna ruin this. This is gonna have to go in the garbage after, right? Because I just crumpled this up. Like this $10 bill is now worth less now. Is that true?
I can handle it, yeah.
You still want this $10 bill back?
I can handle it.
Yeah? Okay, so even though I crumple this up, it's still worth $10. And that leads me to my final piece here, Like, basically, it doesn't matter what it is you do or who it is you know. You are worth what you are. Your value is never diminished based on things that you go through. So keep that as my final closing thought. So I want to thank you guys for listening to this episode of our inaugural Sweet Spot podcast. And please feel free to subscribe to this and look forward to many more to come in the very near future. Again, thank you very much, Matthew.
Thank you for inviting me.